Don Miguel Ruiz Jr., thank you so much for joining us. Is
Thank
that
you.
how you like to be addressed?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes,
Appreciate
absolutely. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us and discuss the teachings of the Four Agreements. For those who are unfamiliar with the book, could you give us a brief overview of what the Four Agreements are?
Sure. The Four Agreements: be impeccable with the word, don't take things personal, don't make assumptions, and always do your best.
The Four Agreements are very popular in the recovery community. Why do you think that is?
Well, from the people I've spoken to, they see themselves reflected in those steps. You know, this inability to let go of domestication and guilt and whatever it is that comes with conditional love in our lives. It's the thing that allows us to look into ourselves, see ourselves, accept ourselves, and from there make a choice in which direction we want to go in life.
Absolutely, I agree. So the Four Agreements, they can serve to a happier, healthier life, but sometimes they're not always easy.
No, and you know, before I even wrote a book, people would ask me the same question: which one of the agreements is the hardest one for me to practice? And I would always answer as taking things personal or being impeccable with the word. It was always those two that was always difficult. And then one day I realized the reason why they are difficult. I was pretending to be a man who was impeccable with his word and that didn't take things personal. That's not me. I took things personal and I wasn't impeccable with my word. So with awareness, practice makes the master. Every time I remember in that moment that I have a choice to not take it personal, and I say yes to not taking it personal, little by little I get better and better and better. It's kind of like they say, one day at a time, practicing this particular agreement as well as all the other agreements. Little by little, you get better and better until the day you master it.
What advice would you give to someone who's struggling with negative thoughts? And how do you avoid further no longer speaking ill of yourself?
Conditional love only sees what it wants to see. It only wants to believe that illusion, that model by which we domesticate ourselves or love ourselves conditionally. Unconditional love is accepting the whole of who I am. You can say that it starts with accepting I talk negative about me. The moment I accept that's who I am, that energy I used to pretend to be something I'm not is freed. I accept it. I take things negative, but I don't want to do that anymore. So from that point of view, you can put something into practice. Imagine every thought you have like a paragraph in a book. Imagine the pages of a book, and every single one of these paragraphs is a thought. At the end of the paragraph, there's a period. My father always told me this: when you catch yourself having a negative thought, it's really hard to stop it right there because the momentum is really hard to stop. The moment you catch yourself, don't judge yourself, don't feel bad about yourself. You say, okay, I'm thinking bad. Let the thought end. Once the thought ends, you hit that period. Now imagine that image in the book. There's a period with a little space between the next beginning of the next paragraph, that first capital letter that starts the next paragraph. That little space is what we know as silence. You have a choice at that moment. When you hit that period at the end of the paragraph, you can quickly start the next paragraph and continue the thought, or redirect your attention. And the more you catch yourself going through those negative thoughts and you catch yourself ruminating and going around and around that circle, when you're able to catch that period, redirect it. Redirect it to that one thing that brings joy to your life. Something that makes you feel good, something that makes you feel happy, something that you know is good for you. And what I mean by that is not what someone tells me is good for me, but something you know it's good for my soul.
How would you say one can speak honestly about their negative thoughts, that you had said that tend to come in, and without putting it against themselves and saying, oh, this is me, this is all me? How can someone stop that and not put the blame on themselves for having these thoughts that are human?
Well, that's the thing. Domestication, like I said before, is a system of reward and punishment by which we model the behavior of an individual, where if we live up to the expectation, we're worthy of a reward, and if we fall short of that expectation, we're worthy of the punishment. Since we are emotional beings who experience the full spectrum of our emotions, that reward feels like acceptance, which feels like love, and the punishment feels like rejection and the lack thereof of love. is the way we learn conditional love. So somewhere along the line, let's say that someone says, in order for me to be happy, I should never have these thoughts. So I create this image of me never having these thoughts. And all of a sudden I fall short, I have a thought. All of a sudden there is the downward spiral, that diatribe of judgment saying, look at me, I didn't live up to that. And all of a sudden I'm using this instrument that was meant to help me heal. I'm using it to go against me now because I didn't live up to it. And now I am castigating myself, I'm rejecting myself, I'm judging myself for not living up to that image. And that's where the downward spiral just goes beyond it, because now my self-love is based on me achieving condition. You can say that's where, just like we corrupt the 4 agreements into the 4 conditions, I corrupted that image again. Catching yourself that we did it. If I catch myself that I'm going back to those negative thoughts, hit that period again. Take a step back, don't judge yourself. I did it. My brother Jose has a wonderful instrument. Whenever he catches himself going down that path, and he catches himself, he goes, good one, you got me. All right, reset, let's start this all over again. And something as simple as that, good one, is acknowledging, okay, I got it. I got caught up again. It happened again. Okay, start again. And we the willingness to start all over again allows us to shift. But it starts with honoring the emotion. This is how I feel. Because in that essence, I'm honoring myself. This is what I'm going through.
Absolutely. So the people who tend to, let's say they're a little bit more judgmental and they like to gossip and say things about other people, what would you say is a way that they can begin to change that about themselves? They don't want to do that anymore. They don't want to look at someone and make a crass assumption immediately. How can they work on that within themselves?
All you really require is that desire. Because normally people who don't want to stop will never reach that point, and they'll just keep going and going and going, and every time we'll deal with the consequences and the fallout that happens. Loss of a friend, division between the groups, drama in the workplace, and it gets to the point where it's almost unbearable, and that's the consequence we have. A consequence is not a punishment. A consequence is the result of an action. But if you start getting to know your triggers, what triggers you to talk to bad about people? What triggers you? Is it about you don't know how to talk to other people? Is it about attention? Is it about self-importance? Is it about hierarchy? People have different. I can't really say what it is because every person is different. Some people, that's what they've learned. Some people, that's what they're used to being social with. Some people, that's the only way they know about attention, and ... It continues going. Each individual to their own. But if you recognize that in you, what triggers you to talk bad about people, to gossip, then you can begin, when you see the trigger coming, you can redirect the attention before it happens.
Going into what you had said about it taking practice, obviously it's not an overnight process.
No.
What would you say is the length that it took you? And I know you said you're still not perfect. Mistakes happen, but how long of a length did it take for you to be comfortable enough to walk away and know it's all with love?
Or little by little, we gain confidence, then trust, then we reach the point of faith. And for everything is different. You know, if it's a pattern that I've been doing all my life, it's going to take some time because practice makes the master. And sometimes some behaviors are so ingrained that it requires a lot of attention to recognize that it's coming. Once you're able to recognize it, you can make a choice. So it's basically about being able to recognize it before the antecedent, before that trigger, before that thing. At first, you recognize it afterwards, you know, but little by little, you get to the point where you can do it before that and you recognize this juice is not worth the squeeze.
Yep, absolutely.
And when that happens, you get better and better. Like when you reach that point, it's already shifted. It's going to be different. We give yourself the time. Nobody heals in a schedule or timeline. We give yourself the time, and every time you put into practice, it's going to be better. And now here's the thing. The moment you see that it works for you, it's like hitting this button that accelerates it, because now all of a sudden, like, oh, I'm motivated by it. I can do this. You know, when we cross thresholds that are self-doubts that we couldn't cross, we get a sense of confidence because we prove our self-doubt wrong. My brother Jose has an image that I like. Imagine someone goes to a museum or an art gallery, and instead of taking a photo camera or pencils to write, he brings all these art supplies. He sees the painting. You know what? I think it needs a dash of red, and he starts painting. He starts painting all these paintings, and people getting, hey, don't do that, do not get out of here. And it's like, how rude, I'm just trying to make it better. And they go from gallery to gallery to gallery. You know, sometimes people do that. See it from that point of view. Sometimes people will come into my life and they think they can paint in my work of art, which is my life. And they think that they have power to paint over it. And of course, like I said before, no one can make me feel inferior without my consent. Criticism is sometimes people painting in my work of art. That all those art pieces in the wall is my creation, my beliefs, my ideas, my sense of self. And sometimes people will come and try to paint. No one can make me feel inferior without my consent. If I let them take complete control, they'll start running my life, and there's domestication all over again, and I'll grab that mask and put it on. I'll live my life according to how they want me to live it. First, understand it's just a projection. People will criticize according to what they view, and it's not personal. They only see what they want to see. But be skeptical, but learn to listen. Somewhere in what they're saying lies the truth. So when someone criticizes me, they can say it with all the mean energy or angry energy. If I listen to what they're saying and there's some element of truth, I will use that to, okay, I'm gonna correct it. But if I use it to reinforce my domestication or conditional love, they could say it the nicest way, but I'll still feel the spur of my own judgment. So it's all up to me. I control this perception. I control me. Not taking things personal simply means I do not assume responsibility for how someone else lives their life, lives their will, sees life, or how they see me. They see it according to their point of view. But I will learn to listen. That's compassion. That's respect.
Yeah, absolutely. For those that, are working on it and they're trying to see things to the way you had explained, but they do get hurt and they do take things personally. How can one begin to forgive ones that have hurt them so they can become a better person?
My brother Jose has a beautiful analogy of that of a scorpion that decides to no longer sting itself over and over again, administering its own emotional poison. In this scorpion's case, is literal poison. So imagine a scorpion that every time he or it thinks of the past and they judge yourself over again, which is the equivalent of stinging themselves time and time again, they're hurting themselves with the past, which means they're not really forgiving. And here's the thing, they're drinking the poison that meant for someone else. The moment we let it go is exactly the moment where I choose to no longer hurt myself with the past, and I will no longer drink that poison. That's what letting go is. I will take a step forward. I will learn from the past. I will learn from those moments, but I let it go. But it starts with honoring, this is how I feel, and it's okay. If I'm ready to forgive, I'll forgive. If I'm not ready to forgive, I'm not ready to forgive.
What can I do to receive criticism and receive words from others to where I don't feel attacked by it?
Well, first things first, you know that no one can hurt you without your permission. And that's the thing. Sometimes people are so violent, they try to take away that. It's called imposing and subjugation. People will find that lack of respect. In my life, we can make a choice. We can make a choice. And every revolution in the history of humanity started the moment the victim no longer gave the oppressor permission to hurt. In all stages, in all forms of revolutions, it came from that. My grandmother taught me that the bully only has power until the victim takes it away from him. It is a moment where I'm no longer gonna be that victim. I'm no longer gonna give you permission. You will no longer bully me. I no longer give you permission to make me feel inferior. That, you can say that, using that quote from Eleanor Roosevelt, the moment you realize that you have, and the way you have is by agreeing with them, I revoke that permission and I forgive myself for ever giving away that permission by agreeing with it. When that happens, you can scream all you want, but you won't make me feel inferior. So yes, some people can come with criticism that is really harsh and bold, but they can scream all they want. I say, thank you so much for your point of view. I don't agree with it, but thank you so much.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Sometimes, people think that anger is power, but it really is just a crutch. We think that the only way we can say no is with anger. But when you have self-respect and you trust yourself, you trust your will, you can say no thank you with the biggest smile, and it's more powerful than any no with anger can give. No thank you.
What would you describe the difference between an assumption and intuition?
Sure, no problem. My favorite instrument to describe what an assumption is the Gestalt principle of closure. The Gestalt principle of closure says that if you draw a circle and you don't close the circle, like physically, the mind can project that missing part. If you draw two sides of a triangle and don't draw that third line, the mind has a capacity to project that missing line. It's an instrument that graphic designers and artists have been using to create abstract art for many years. And it's the thing that allows a designer or artist to play with the viewer. So an assumption is a story we use and project to make us think we know the whole truth. That's what an assumption is. And the danger to making an assumption is that we believe it and we make a choice based on an assumption. Now, the difference between intuition. Intuition is about perception. As a being of this planet, as an animal of this planet, we all have intuition, which is to perceive. It's kind of like the deer that all of a sudden hears something and it feels off, something's off. We humans have that. All of a sudden someone comes in the door and we have something, if we feel something off or something more to happen and we feel that something's not right here. It's a sensation we have of the environment we're in that it has nothing to do with the mind, but we're still perceiving it. Where it gets corrupted is when we begin to project a story onto it. Oh, it must be because of the way he's dressed, or what he has on, or what she has on, the way she has that, and we can start projecting our own preconceived notions, our own prejudice, our own whatever onto a story. And at that moment, it stops being about intuition and it starts being, the same thing that drives me to create an assumption. Intuition is perception. Perceiving the environment that surrounds me. It stops being intuition the moment I add a story to that which I perceive. And that story is me projecting what I want to see. At that moment, I'm no longer perceiving my environment, I'm perceiving my own projection. And that's the difference between intuition and an assumption. An assumption is my creation that I project. Intuition is perceiving the environment that surrounds me, that allows me to know what's happening around me without the need to describe it, narrate it, judge it. I can see what's happening and I can take an action.
Absolutely. What are some tips that you would give people to stop making assumptions all the time?
Catching yourself in the same way we were talking about before about catching negative thoughts. My favorite way to apply this agreement, THIS agreement, sometimes my accent gets in the way, is to change it just a tad bit. Don't believe your assumptions. I'm the one who told assumptions. I'm the one who created it. I'm the one projecting it. If you want to practice it in a way that to use an assumption as an instrument, and as a firefighter, soldier, police officer, or someone making investments or making choices, or whatever it is that individuals who make assumptions do, it requires the discipline to always know that it's a story that I'm projecting and it may not be the truth, which means I don't make a choice based on my assumption. I am patient to let life show me the truth, or to ask questions. What does that mean to you? What does that action mean? Whatever. Just be willing to ask an individual how they perceive. Because sometimes we make assumptions about how people see me, you know.
How can I prevent other people from making incorrect assumptions about me?
You don't control that. You only control to the tips of your fingers. I am responsible for the integrity and clarity of what I say. I'm not responsible for what you hear. Well, there's words that mean different things, and we make the assumption that they think that they're using the same meaning as I am. Sometimes we get in trouble with that. Asking each other, what does that mean to you? I can't control when someone gives me the benefit of the doubt, but I control how I can give a benefit of the doubt, or ask someone, can you clarify, what do you mean by this? What do you mean by fanny pack? What do you mean by... Well, I was about to say éxito. I was trying to remember what the success, love. What does love mean to you? And sometimes couples have that, like, they have two totally different meanings. They're willing to ask each other, what does that word mean to you? Love, relationships, commitment, things like that. We're also no longer in the shadows of the assumptions we project. We get to listen to how someone else sees life. We don't control how people view us. It's something that I completely accept. Write my books, and people read them and they will interpret it in their own unique way. But I have the responsibility of being as clear as possible and speak with the integrity I have. That doesn't guarantee that someone's not going to project something onto me or misinterpret something I say. But if I can do it, to give that ability to ask, then be open for someone to ask you, what does that mean to you? And to be honest with you, it's helped me so much when people ask me, because now I see it from their point of view as they see it from mine.
So I feel like this rolls right into like the fourth agreement, and always do your best. No matter what situation you're given, you want to perform your best. And I think that coincides with recovery perfectly, because recovery, it's all about progress and not perfection.
Yep.
What would you say to those that they want to do their absolute best, but they don't know themselves well? They don't know their best. They don't know what they're capable of. How can they begin to start giving their best?
To me, this agreement, always do your best, is the agreement of unconditional love. It is the agreement of willingness to see myself for who I am right now. Yeah, this is me. I am alive. And while I'm alive, anything is possible. What do I want? What do I want to live? If I don't know it, be willing to start at the very beginning. To always do your best is about accepting this is who I am today, and my best changes from day to day. Like I said before, you cross thresholds your mind told you I couldn't cross, or your doubt told you couldn't cross, and you proved it wrong. Effort is using the energy that animates this body, that animates this mind, to manifest something. That's what effort is. Taking a step, making a choice. Discipline is remembering to apply that effort every day. That's it. Forget about the drill sergeant. It's about that choice to apply that effort on that day. And success is simply following through in that effort. My best will always change depending on where I'm at today, but what do I want to experience? What do I want to live? What do I want to create? What do I want to manifest? You know, I stopped drinking 5 years ago, and my motivator is I want to live. That's a juice that's definitely worth the squeeze.
You know, not only in recovery, but in life. We get into routines and schedules and, where we're complacent and we're comfortable and that's fine. I don't need to improve because I'm okay here.
Yeah.
How do we get out of that mindset and always want to wake up and improve and become better and take that effort and take those steps so you're further along? How do we do that?
Just simply take the step, little by little. Just for most of us people who've watching this video, you've gone through detox. You know how hard that is. But little by little, you start feeling better and better and better. Then all of a sudden you feel so good in your body, but then we don't live isolated in a monastery. We don't live isolated in a hill. To become the master of self is the moment where we learn to apply what we've learned. We apply what we've learned to move the story forward when life is a little hard, and we apply what we learn to enjoy when life is good. So in those moments where we wake up completely happy, it's because we got to the point where we are enjoying being alive. We enjoy being in this body. We're enjoying being in this relationship. We're enjoying creating what we're creating. And when we are not feeling that way, it's okay too. I'll apply everything I've learned to move the story forward, to get me out of that space where it's not so pleasant being awake. But I know how to get out of it because I did it before and I could do it again. And I have the complete trust in myself to do it.
I want to conclude this by, asking, what you had said, there's things in life that, you want, there's things in life that you need. What advice would you give to people who don't know how to differentiate the things that they need in life and the things that they just want? But it may not be putting them on a path that's their best self.
Well, it's just simply being present. I need to eat, I'll eat. I want to be able to pay my bills, I will do the work that allows me to afford that. Sometimes when we let go of what the mind says we're supposed to need or whatever, we see what is important in our life. Love is the perfect balance between generosity and gratitude. The ability to not take for granted what's in front of us is the thing that allows us to tell the difference between something my mind, my ego, my personal importance says I should have in order to be happy versus what actually makes me happy right now. And usually is that which I am grateful for having. I am grateful to be alive. I'm grateful for the relationships I have. Sometimes family is not by blood, sometimes it's just by love. And sometimes I can have both. I'm grateful that at this moment, I'm the youngest I will ever be to make corrections in my life, to shift it, to recreate, to manifest something I want to experience. And you can tell the difference between I have to and I want to from that point of view. You can almost hear domestication all over, I have to. I have to do this, I have to do that. Versus, I want to. You can hear passion all over it. This is my point A, and I can go in any direction in life. But I've accepted this is where I'm at. And from there I can go in any direction in life because that's what I want to experience.
Thank you so much for answering these questions and taking the time to sit down.
No, my pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
It's been so wonderful, and I appreciate you going over the teachings before agreements. It's a book that I personally love as well. Is there anything else that you would like to add or anything that you would like to say before we end things today?
Sure. Well, for me, the whole point of all this work is to enjoy life. And we enjoy life by enjoying being ourselves. We heal with our own permission. So for me, being able to enjoy life is healing that part of me that doesn't let me enjoy it. To be able to open up my intimacy. Sometimes the thing that doesn't allow us to open up that intimacy is fears and wounds. But if I heal it, then I'm able to open up completely without fear, to be able to love without fear. And that's what we do. The 4 agreements and all the work in our family, the Tota tradition, just like the work that Mountainside does, is to heal the wounds that conditional love left in our hearts so that we can enjoy being alive and enjoy being in the relationships we're in, and enjoying being this, well, what we are at this very moment.
Thank you. I appreciate it.